Hi, everybody. This is Brian with the Instructional Technology Coordinator team. Kristen, Wendy, and I want to wish you a truly celebratory Teacher Appreciation Week. We appreciate so much about each of our teachers in this system and across really our profession. So this week we are celebrating by sharing the very best ideas that are coming forward from our colleagues, the folks who are doing the virtual learning and trying it and figuring out what works. So this week we have our celebration of the Virtual EduWin series. And today you're going to see this recording from me and some of the teachers that I have reached out to. But we'll have a follow-up series all week long on this. So let's go ahead and get started. It is Teacher Appreciation Week. We cannot say thank you enough to all of you for your continued energy and your effort and your calm, but also for your creativity. This has been a stretch and a challenge for all of us, and we acknowledge that, but we also see some really great things coming forward out of that. And that is what has really brought us to this series this week. Last week, we were doing a deep dive on some tutorials. We've been talking about feedback. We've done multimedia and engaging presentations and lesson designs in the last couple of weeks. Today, we want to talk about what's working. So you're going to hear some real ideas from real SDW staff who are figuring this whole virtual learning thing out. This is not a tutorial series. You're going to get a series of ideas thrown at you and some links possibly that'll help you learn a little bit more, but you're not going to get the step-by-step in this. But the good news is we're sharing this for your benefit, so beg, borrow, steal, reach out to these staff members. Feel free to ask them for supports, ask anyone on our team, and know that we are using tools that are already within our structure. These are not new tools you need to go out and grab. So let's go ahead and get started. Our very first offering is from Brianna Beadle, who is a teacher, presently a science teacher at the Horning Middle School. And so she did a really interesting tool called the Virtual Egg Hunt. Basically, the general idea of it was that she was trying to teach physics to the students and give students a way to do some physics problems. But she wanted to do it in a little bit more engaging way than just here's a series of physics problems. So she used virtual reality to create an Easter egg hunt. And each of those Easter eggs was for a different level of physics problems that the students were to solve. So I'm just going to jump out so you can kind of see the general idea here. So you need a total of 10 points to complete this. This is a Google Doc that she set up in which the egg color, what did you find? What question was it? What is your answer? And what's the number of points? So this is what the students actually submitted to her. But let's see how she did it. So this, she used a 360-degree panoramic shot of a room in her house. Love that woodwork, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful woodwork. And then you can see there are Easter eggs hidden around. And when you click on the Easter egg, you actually can see the problems appear. So this was a green one, and our green ones are worth 3 points. So that's a 3-point. That's a more challenging question. So how did she do this? What did she need to get it done? Well, there's a couple of things that she needed to do this. Let's look at the technical side. So she obviously had to physically hide her finds around the room. She used Easter eggs. You can use anything you want, but things around the room that the students need to find. Then she took a panoramic photo of the space. Now you could actually use your iPad and just do a panoramic photo. Okay, so that would work as well. Or we also have the Street View app available, which takes actually really good panoramic photos. They're a little bit putsy. They take some time because you have to move your iPad from spot to spot to spot around the room. But you actually don't need anything more than an iPad, either your Photos app or Street View, to take a panoramic photo, or at least a portion of that. And then you build the tour. Now, Brianna used a tool called Kuula, Kuula, and that was quite easy. But you could also use something called the Google Tour Creator. So here's a tour that I created a while ago. You upload your videos, or your photos, your 360 photos. And then you simply, it'll take just a moment for it to load here, I'm guessing. But you basically, you simply put hotspots around that. So once this loads, you'll see it better. So here's the 360 photo. I happen to find this in Street View. And when you click on it, there's a hotspot that's there, except for Brianna made this the problem that she was working with. So that is Google Tour Creator, and it really is a quite easy tool to use. Then the last thing that she did was basically put it all together. So she created a launch video explaining the challenge to the students. You're going to do an Easter egg hunt. She put the think sheet that I showed you, the tour in the video, into her digital workflow tool. And then the students, when they were done, turned this Google Doc completed back into her through Google Classroom. So a really fun way to bring VR and your content together in an interesting way. All right, let's get on to the next one here. Also from Brianna. So this one's just a simple match game that she made with Google Slides. So academically, she had to think about something in her content where students would need to do some level of sorting and matching together. And obviously, the more complex that you can make this appropriate for your students and your content level, the more interesting this is going to be. But she basically just started with a Google Slide presentation and a lot of screenshots. And then she turned that into a match game activity. As she put it, this is actually quite simple and pretty straightforward, but it was more engaged. It felt more engaging to her and the students than just a simple Google Slides activity. So let me zoom out of this so you can see what her match game looked like. So the first couple of slides are her direction slides. Don't forget to use your notes to help you out. We're going to look at the graph. What's it explaining? And then she gives her instructions here. She gives her example video there. And then the activity is ready to get started. Each of these is simply a picture that she took in advance. Then all she needed to do was to delete the ones, or the students really, was to delete the ones that didn't match so that you had a direct match with the graph and the graphic that went with it. So the challenging part of this was probably setting all of these up and taking screenshots and keeping them organized. But then once we actually were down to the point of creating it, that was quite easy. You start a Google Slide presentation, you put your question or your challenge at the top of the slide, and then you simply import the images that you want the students to sort out. The last part of this is simply when you create your launch video or your instructions, you put those on the first couple of slides. And then when you put it into Google Classroom, I'll use that as an example, you put that Google slide into your digital workflow. And in this case, you're going to want a copy for each of the students because each of them are going to work independently. You could do this with small groups as well, but this is probably best for each student to have to interact, delete the ones that aren't appropriate, and then select the ones that are there. So match game, Google Slides, such an easy and interesting use of that particular tool. Meredith Sweeney, another of our Horning superstar teachers, really has an interesting use of a class collaboration doc. So I'm going to show you an example that Brianna built off of this, but the originator for this one came out of Meredith. Meredith started to use something like this in her language arts classroom, and then I believe Rosemary Karnowski and Brianna adopted that and brought that into their own practice as well. So what this is, class collaborative document, simply another way to use a Google slide in a slightly different way. So this particular activity deals with the ability for students to see each other's work and build on each other's work. So kind of a generic scaffold that's put into place by being able to look at the kids around you in class if you were physically with them, talk with them, work with them. Obviously, virtually, we don't have that ability, but how can we build off of each other's work so that we learn, we make sure that we're on topic, we're doing the right things, and we start to answer our own questions as students? So that's what she's tackled here. So how do you academically prepare this? You got to think about a task where their student learning, what they're trying to do, is really valued by learning from others. So places where you might do a turn and talk, you might do small group instruction, where learning from others and having them kind of answer their questions along the way is valued. Then the other thing you need to do is develop some sort of a template activity that each student can complete. So let's go into the activity, and then you'll get a general idea of how this one's set up. All right. So again, this is an example that Meredith created, and then you can see Brianna's got her version of this for her science classroom. So here we talk about the instructions. We create a situation that she's working on a lab, a graphing lab. Okay, so it talks about, what are the instructions, what the kids need to do, and then she basically created an example page so they can get a general idea of it. And from there, each student, we'll slide down just a little bit here. Okay, each student gets their own sample page. So it's just a template. The beauty of this, what I really enjoy about this is if Aiden's not sure yet how to do this, the examples weren't enough, Aiden can go through and look at, because every student has their own slide. So this is just a duplicated version of this. How did Ashley do hers? And let's learn from them. Okay, good. And then we can slide down and see, how did Catherine do hers? So again, the idea is we can not only do our own experiment and be done with it, but we can go in and look at each other's. We could add comments. We could instruct the students to add comments into each other's if we want to, with the presenter notes that are available there. So there's a lot we can do with this, but again, it is really bringing a tool, Google Slides, into the forefront of collaboration. How can our students work together on it to learn from each other, which is a big challenge with this. So what do we do technically? We start a Google Slide or a Google Doc if you like that better. We put the instructions on the front side. We create a space for each student to do their own work within that. We put that slideshow in the digital workflow, and here's the tweak. When you send that out, if you use something like Google Classroom, your sharing settings are not going to be an individual copy. You are going to give every student editing access to the same presentation. Not their own copies, not an individual copy. They just have edit access to the same one. One tip, before you go in and share out your template with the students, I'd make a copy of that so they don't change your original, so you can use it from class to class and year to year. But love this, great way for students to learn from each other. Okay, now we are going to move on to Cassie Bauknick. Cassie is a science teacher at South High School, one of our Model Tech classrooms as well. And Cassie had a really interesting challenge in front of her. She teaches a med-terms class. And med-terms, one of the things they obviously have to do is be able to spell and define various medical terms. And so she had the need to read something or for the students to hear something and then spell it back. Wanted to test that. How do we assess that? How do we do this in a virtual way? Before, you may have done this where you simply read the word in class and the students wrote it down and turned that into you. But we have to adjust to a virtual version of this. So what we want you to think about here is there a time when you're doing some kind of an assessment or just an input where the students will be able to value from learning something from you, hearing something, seeing something from you, and then responding to it? If so, if you can come up with that, and I'm in that academic preparation portion of this, then as a teacher, what you need to do is kind of get your resource together. You either gather or you create or you list those necessary instructional resources. For Cassie, she needed videos of medical terms being read. That's what she ultimately needed here for this particular one. So let's take a look at it and see if you can get an idea what she did. So we're using a Google form here. And her Google form, the students put their email, so we know who they are, their name, all of those pieces. And then simply what she did was create a video for each medical term.
Word 1. Hemothorax.
Now, one of the beauties of this is in Google Forms, you can embed a YouTube video. So then the students below that would actually type in the spelling, their definition, and then they would move on. Now, she used it for words, but you could use it for a lot of different topics, right? Think about anything where a little bit of a video clip would be enough to prompt their thinking. You put that inside of a Google form, and now you have a built-in media-ready, media-rich assessment where this video is really what prompts their responses here. Love this. I think it's a great use of the tool, and she really did a nice job putting it together. The thing you might notice about her videos is they're quite engaging. It's not just her reading. Okay, I'll show you the next one just so you can see it.
Word number 2. Phrenologia.
Okay, so that looks like it took her a lot of time to make. But Cassie actually used clips. And if you haven't used clips on the iPad yet, it's so easy to make video clips. These are just pre-made posters, and she just changed each one from word to spell. hit the record button, recorded the word, and then uploaded it to YouTube. And that's what she brought in here. Super easy, looks great, and really engaging for the students to look at. So really love this idea. Maybe you can find a way to do that. So technical preparation, of course, you have to create the clips. You've got a link there if you want to learn how. You have to upload those videos to your YouTube channel. You create the Google form, and then you import the videos into the Google form, and that shows you how to do that. How do you import YouTube videos into a Google form? And then she launched it with the students by putting the link in her digital workflow. So hopefully that is a helpful tip for you. Way to go to the next location here. All right, now we're going to slide into our specialist, Katie Miller. Katie is a music teacher at Hadfield. And Katie has 2 tips for us today. We're going to start with the first one, which is her Flipgrid challenge that she does weekly for students. So imagine, how are we going to do music and music education in this virtual environment? It's this huge challenge for Katie. How do we do that for all specialists? Art education has the same challenge. PE has this challenge. So what Katie decided to do was really, how could I get my kids to practice and learn something across the course of the week that would be fun and engaging and make sure that it brings them into the activities? So she did a Song of the Week challenge. And it is at the beginning of the week, she launches in Flipgrid her Song of the Week for the students to learn, to practice, perform, and then send back in Flipgrid. Let's take a look at her Flipgrid challenge of the week. So here's what it looks like. We'll use the cup song. Katie starts with an instructional video for the students.
I'm really excited for
in which she initiates her challenge. Okay, so there explains for the kids what the challenge is. For her, she picked a song of the week, then original lyrics, and she shows us the cup percussion. They can do lots of different things. So she gives them ways to make it interesting and unique for them. But then the students are given a chance in Flipgrid to perform that particular song of the week and post it in the challenge for others to view, to star, to like. I'm going to show you this one because this one's really fun for me. So here you can see Olivia B has updated the same cups challenge 3 times. The first time, if I were to have you watch the rest of that video, you would see that Olivia does that several times and each time pauses on that. Here we go again. All right, so that one, I'm not sure if you could hear it, but the music is playing, and her speed is definitely picking up. So she's got these different versions of the same one that she's uploaded just to kind of take you through how students might upload multiple times to these challenges, how they might show their growth, how they might change things up a little bit. So it's just super fun to see the kids growing, practicing, trying again. And one of the things that Katie has said to me in the past, actually, before all of this, is one of the nice pieces about the media is it encourages their practice. They do more practice as a result of that. So if you don't use Flipgrid, of course, you'd have to create your Flipgrid grid or your class, and you'd have to create a topic. So she does that each week. So this was week 4. And then that instructional video for the students with rules. The beauty is Flipgrid on the iPad is amazing and easy, and they will have a lot of fun and success in doing this. You'll have to generate some rules for your submission. Also, you'll have to generate some enthusiasm because any challenge is really better when you have more enthusiasm. So Katie shared that with us as one of her great practices. The other thing that Katie shared with us is this concept. And this is a larger concept for you to take in. But the idea is each week she gives her kids some choices around things to do. But the idea is the small steps that she outlines for those choices that week will build to a bigger project. So she used an example of mood and identifying mood in music. So for a couple of weeks, she had her students generate different moods in GarageBand. So they created their own original music, and they would base it upon a mood that they were working on, different part of a movie, whatever that mood they felt was appropriate for that part of the movie. So she did that in very small pieces over a couple of weeks. But in her larger plan, she knew that she was building to something larger. If I zoom out of this for just a second, let's see if this is it. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to show you this here. All right, so here is the larger project that the students are working on. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear this or not, but you can kind of hear that the students have created this background music, part one. We're going to see a change here in the mood in just a moment. So right there, you've identified there's a change in the music, right? Because the mood changes here. We'll do that again. We'll get another change coming here. All right, so you kind of get the idea. Each of those is a week's worth of work that the students did when they were creating its own music. And then the last part was bringing all of that together, and she did that within iMovie in this particular case. But think about it from your lens, right? So you have to identify some sort of a larger project that encompasses several key skills that you're trying to teach the kids. Then you have to think about, how do I break that project into smaller, more achievable weekly tasks? All in one week is going to be too much for some students. But if I can do this in smaller pieces, and we can attack that little piece of the larger project. And then Katie said each week she just simply had an objective, a lesson, and then one task to complete for that week. But do that over the course of 3-4 weeks. And now you have 4 pieces that they brought then together into a final project. In this case, she used iMovie. So think about, how can you have your students build pieces that would move toward a larger objective, something bigger than just a 1 week or a 1 day kind of work. Keep it small, stay targeted, give the kids choice along the way, but ultimately know that it's building towards something bigger because you have created the conditions for that to happen. So, love that idea as well, and thought that was a really worthwhile share for you. This week we are going to be doing a series of EduWins, just like you heard today. Sometimes we'll have guest appearances coming in, sometimes we'll just have ideas, but all of these tools are tools that are intended for you to be able to start using them today. You can use them with your students today and really find some great educational wins within our virtual learning environment. So thanks for joining us. I hope you found something that was useful and can celebrate our colleagues who are doing amazing work. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thanks for sharing. To all of those who shared today, Brianna, Meredith, Cassie, and Katie. Thanks, guys. You're great.